So it's really hard to distill a lesson into a video. I mean, there are some people that are so brilliant at this. I remember watching a whole series of Paul Stafford Cook videos that massively inspired me to become a better guitar player, and it's something I'm working on all the time. And I've started giving lessons to more beginners and beginner intermediates, or people who've come back after a long time. And I want to work on making some of these sort of lesson videos. They're not going to be as polished and structured as like a Paul David video, and they're not going to be as insightful and brilliant as a Paul Stafford Cook video. Hopefully they're somewhat relatable, and I'm going to try and break things down as much as possible. But really I want to go by what everyone wants to see. I've started today with a lesson in F major, and the reason I've started that was I've realised from teaching a few different people that if you didn't come from a different musical instrument, or being taught music theory, or maybe playing the piano being the most obvious example, that you might not quite understand the way that keys work. And I find it's not important to sort of break it down into musical theory, which is, things I did exams in when I was a kid, but just from the guitaring perspective, what is important about it? So what I wanted to do in this video was explain how you know, or just tell you really how you know what chords are in a key, and use F major for that. And then there's an app you can download, I'll let you know about. I think it's a free app. It's not sponsored by them or anything, it's just something I use myself that will help you. So the bit I played at the beginning was in F major, and basically the way it works is when you're in a major key, the 1, 4 and 5 chords are major, the 2, 3 and 6 chords are minor, and the 7 chord is diminished, and I don't use the diminished scale, and I don't really use the 7 chord that often. If I do, I just tend to turn it into a minor 7 or something like that, whatever works in the context of the music. If you don't know what I mean by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's use the most obvious example of C major, which has no sharps or flats in its key. It's just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back to C. Chord 1 is C, chords 4 and 5 are F and G, and the 2, 3 and 6 in that case are D, E and A, so those would be minor chords, and then you'd have a B diminished. The other thing that I think everyone should know is what a relative minor is. Now I'm going to do a lesson with that in it, so not necessarily using it in this lesson, but in the next lesson that's what I'm going to use to sort of base a lesson round. So what I thought I'd do here is I'm going to play something now again in F major, and I'm going to list the chords that I'm using as I go along. Now, as it happens, for me, it was a really great, enjoyable thing to do, was just to base some improvisation around a chord sequence like this. Such a obvious thing to do, but not something I do enough. And like everyone else, probably, I get stuck in these patterns. Recently, I've only been playing sort of major blues stuff, and whilst I enjoy it, and I need to increase my repertoire of major blues, I was getting a little bit bored, and I even saw a few comments where people said, can you try and play something else? So that's what I've done. So look, I hope this is not too simple and not too complicated. I'm going to play this next bit with the chords as I go along, written on the screen. And then in the next section, I'll talk a bit more about how you link from chord to chord, and also what equipment I'm using today, which is always a fun part, I think, that everyone wants to know. So, I mean, that was obviously very on the nose. I was playing through the chords, just trying to link them together. And if I were you and I was just starting to do this for the first time, to conscientiously play in a key and try and get the most out of it, I would just start with something like the following. Okay, what you can do is take the chord F major and then look at the first position of the pentatonic there. And look at the second position of the pentatonic. Okay, so then what I would do is I would practice the F major. So you're basically taking the position you're in and the next one along and trying to link them together. So if I wanted to get from F major to the second chord, which is G minor, I can do F major. Then I got from G minor to A minor. And I got back. So I'm connecting the first position, the second position, and then also the third position, which is and that connects you to another of the minor chords in this key, which is D minor. So the fourth and fifth chords are the B flat major and the C major. So quite often what I would do is go from F major to the second chord G minor, and then I could go to the four chord, the B flat major, and then I could look at using actually the pentatonic first position of B flat major as well. Now it slightly differs from the third position of the F major, but it's close. So that's in the F major and in the B flat. So that is in the F major, also in the A minor, and it's also in the B flat major. Now I'm probably starting to get moving on a little bit more complicated, which I wanted to do in the next lesson, but what I'm really trying to get you to here is learn the position of the chords F major, Also do it on the next string up, the 5th string. And do that for all, the G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, and D minor. And then learn all the positions of the pentatonic, as I showed you. And you can learn it down and up in one position. And you can also learn it up each string. And that will just familiarize you, because then when you go to a chord in the key, as I've been showing you, like the A minor, you can see what F major position pentatonic scale is round there. It's hard to do in one lesson, but and I keep sort of backtracking and going forward again just to try and instill it into the lesson. Keep learning the positions of the chords, the different voicings, and you can get much more complex than just the 2 different 6th and 5th root note chord shapes. And learn the pentatonic for everything, minor and major, and you will start to see a pattern emerging onto there, and how you can go from, you know, the F major chord to the C major chord, how you could do that through the pentatonic. And also then you'll start to not have to be so on the nose in terms of actually playing. So you can play a chord like F, so I did play F major, and then I played what is the pentatonic for the C major and the B flat major. Most of those notes are also in the F major pentatonics, and then I played the G minor. And I find that if you occasionally play the whole chord or quite a large part of it, it just reminds the listener that they're what they're hearing. Okay, so that was a slightly abrupt stop, but I think I got to the point where I think the key points I want to make, I just want to sort of make it a bit more structured, are learn what chords can be played in a certain key, as we've been doing F major, so in this particular key. Learn them in a couple of positions up and down the fretboard. Learn the pentatonic scale, probably best to learn major and minor keys, but in this case the F major. Learn the pentatonic in 5 positions, and as you do that and you play the chords of the key and the 5 positions of the pentatonic, you'll start to see how you can move a melody up and down. Now obviously there's a lot more detail in there, but I find if you're not a total beginner and you've been playing for, I don't know, a year, 2 years, and you're starting to cotton on to all of this, this sort of thing is like a springboard that will take you forward, you know, maybe help you just see what the next thing is. And as I did there, I like to break it down. Move from position 1 to 2, see what sort of melodies you can come up with. Move from position 2 to 3, move back and forward between 1, 2 and 3, play one of the chords in the key and try and create a melody around that part of the fretboard. Practice going up and down the fretboard as well as up and down the fretboard. So yeah, I think this is where I'd love to hear comments about how I can make these lessons better, clearer. Do they need to be a little bit more advanced? But also, how do I point out the most basic parts of it to help someone who's more of a beginner along, or do you have to split the lessons, very beginner and then sort of beginner intermediate, as 2 separate lessons? I'd love to know down in the comments, and generally what you think I could do to make this more interesting or clearer or more easy to learn from. So yeah. And by the way, I'm not making these to be an advert, but as I said, I do Zoom lessons, so I'll leave my email address in the description box if you want to get in touch. And sometimes just doing 1 or 2 lessons every month or 2, it's just enough to prod you in the right direction, and then you can go and do the work yourself. That's how a lot of students tend to work. Obviously, you're all busy and doing your own thing. Okay, so what was the gear I used today? Well, I'm using this Marcus King ES345. It's a beautiful guitar. It's pretty hot. And again, this will be controversial, but I'm going to be changing the pickups on here to something a bit more low wind and sort of original feeling. These have got custom buckers in, and when I changed them in my R9 Les Paul, mostly positive feedback. A few people thought you shouldn't change the custom buckers. In my opinion, the pickup should suit the guitar, and in this one, again, a bit like that R9, it's a bit unbalanced and a bit too hot. But anyway, I love playing it and I love the detail on the guitar and everything. And then I'm using 2 really cool pedals, the Vemuram Jan Ray, which is a low gain, and I've got it really turned down, the gain. It's a low gain sort of boost in that way. And then I'm using something called the Valcoder. So that comes from some amps that were used back in the 60s, I want to say, these Valcoder amps, and this is the tremolo and boost from that, and it's really cool, made by Catalin Bread. And I got this signal chain from watching a Kirk Fletcher video, and these 2 pedals together just sound brilliant in my opinion. And then I'm using the 2 Rock Classic Reverb Signature, and I've got a Fryette power station plugged in so I can wind the amp up, and it's playing at around 199 to 102 decibels throughout. So without the attenuator, that would easily be 108 to 110. So that takes it from extremely loud to just pretty loud, and you can cope with it. So I hope you've got something from this, and I'm just going to close out on some playing in the key of F major, which I'm playing quite slowly and quite obviously to just sort of maybe give you anything else to go from as I'm playing it. As I said, I'm very new to making videos about learning the guitar. Well, it's my first one really, or teaching the guitar, should I say. So I've got really a lot to learn about how to make these. I think there's a lot more work involved in it than I thought there was going to be. But anyway, any ideas you have for content on this type that you'd like to see that's not gear based, then please let me know down in the comments. If you want something very specific that I can make, or more generalized, more whatever it is. I hope you've enjoyed it. And before we get on to that last bit of minute or 2 of playing, I just wanted to announce my giveaway again. When I hit 7,500 subs, I'll be giving this fantastic Protein pedal by Brown Amplification away. That's a Blues Breaker here, a Nobles ODR1 style pedal here, and they also work together. Really versatile, creative pedal, which I love. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.